ladies and gentlemen, fellow dreamers, fellow warriors of destiny, I ask you today, what if I told you that your life, as you know it, is being quietly stolen not by your enemies, not by poverty, not even by failure, but by the hour you choose to wake up? What if I told you that the most powerful decision you could ever make is to rise while the world sleeps, to take back your time, your mind, your soul at 4 in the morning, because at that hour the weak are dreaming, but the strong are building, the lost are wandering, but the focused are aligning, and while many are trapped in the illusion of comfort, the few who dare to rise early are rewriting the story of their lives in silence, in solitude, in strength. This is not just a habit, it is a rebellion against mediocrity. It is a ritual of the awakened. It is the time when history is shaped, not by noise, but by discipline. And I dare you to listen with your soul, not just your ears. For if you truly understand the power of this sacred hour, you will never live the same way again. Let us speak plainly. Let us speak not to the ears, but to the soul. The first lie they taught you was that success begins at sunrise, that productivity is tied to 9 to 5, that the world rewards those who blend into the system. But the truth, raw and unfiltered, is this: greatness begins long before the world opens its eyes. At 4 a.m. the world is silent, but destiny is speaking. At 4 a.m. the weak are still negotiating with sleep, but the strong are in communion with their future. At 4 a.m. mediocrity is resting, but excellence is rehearsing its lines on the stage of solitude. You see, to rise at 4 a.m. is not simply to get out of bed. It is to declare war on distraction. It is to reclaim the time that was stolen by excuses, by social media, by people who do not understand your mission. It is to say to the universe, I will no longer be reactive. I will no longer wake up and serve the agenda of others. I will wake up and build my vision before the world even notices I exist. Because that is where power is born, not in noise, not in crowds, not in applause, but in quiet, deliberate choices that no one sees but the heavens above. At 4 a.m. the air is different. The silence is not empty, it is sacred. The darkness is not depressing, it is empowering. It is in that sacred hour that ideas are born, dreams are sharpened, and strategies are written in the mind of the visionary. The man who wakes up at 4 a.m. does not compete with others. He competes with his former self. He is not driven by vanity. He is driven by legacy. He does not chase attention. He chases alignment, and in the stillness of that hour, he becomes the architect of his own transformation. While the world is lost in dreams, the 4 a.m. warrior is already designing reality. He does not scroll through the illusions of others. He writes his own future in ink made from sweat and sacrifice. He does not wait for motivation. He creates momentum. Because he understands something the masses will never comprehend, that the early hours are not just quieter, they are cleaner. The spiritual pollution of the day has not yet begun. The emotional noise of other people's problems has not yet clouded your clarity. In that sacred space you can hear your own heartbeat, you can feel your own thoughts, you can face your truth without distraction, and that, my brothers and sisters, is power. That is spiritual power. That is mental sovereignty. That is how legacies are born in silence before they are celebrated in the spotlight. You may ask, but what will I do at 4 a.m.? And I respond, what do you need to do to become who you were born to be? Read. Reflect, run, plan, pray, write, build. Do what the man with purpose does, he prepares, because no warrior walks into battle without sharpening his sword, and no visionary steps into the world unarmed with clarity. The world belongs not to the loud, but to the prepared, and 4 a.m. is not a time, it is a weapon against fear, a weapon against laziness, a weapon against the virus of conformity that keeps billions asleep even when they are awake. There is a reason the ancient ones rose before the sun. They knew the value of rhythm. They understood that your spirit aligns better when the world is quiet. They knew that the morning is not just for tasks, it is for tuning. You tune your mind to purpose. You tune your heart to gratitude. You tune your soul to peace. So when the world comes at you with noise, you do not panic, you have already communed with silence. When the world tries to rush you, you move with the unshakable calm of a man who has already seen his day before it began. You are not reacting, you are executing. And I tell you this, not as a suggestion, but as a calling. If you truly wish to change your life, if you truly wish to break the curse of mediocrity, and step into the rare air of the few who command their fate, then rise. Rise before the world, rise before your doubts, rise before the distractions, because between 4 and 6 a.m. the future is up for grabs. And the man who dares to claim it will never beg for it again. Let me ask you, when no one is watching, when the applause is silent, when the lights are off and the room is cold, what drives you? Because that hour, the 4 a.m. hour, it does not lie. It exposes the truth of your discipline. It shows the raw face of your commitment. That hour separates the talkers from the doers, the hopeful from the focused, the dreamers from the disciplined. There is no comfort in that hour. There is no applause, there are no eyes, only you, your will, and the decision to rise or retreat. And it is in that moment, that sacred, painful, silent moment, where your character is either built or broken. Discipline is not born in public speeches, in vision boards, or in social media captions. Discipline is born in the lonely, quiet places where comfort is screaming at you to stay in bed, and purpose is whispering to you to get up. At 4 a.m., your body will resist. Your mind will give you every excuse to roll over, but the one who rises not because it is easy, but because it is required, is the one who carves his name into history. He does not rise for motivation. He rises because he gave himself a command, and he refuses to betray himself. Every single morning you wake up early when your body says no, and your mind screams yes to comfort. But you choose growth, you are rewriting the code of who you are. You are shifting from the man who reacts to pain to the one who is refined by it. That kind of consistency becomes your fire. That kind of sacrifice becomes your signature, and that is what separates leaders from followers, kings from cowards, legends from the forgotten. The ones who rise at 4 a.m. are not superhuman. They simply have declared, I will not negotiate with weakness. You see, the battle for success is not fought at the podium, it is fought in the dark. It is fought when you rise out of bed while your muscles ache. It is fought when you stretch your soul beyond excuses. It is fought when you pick up your journal, your book, your dumbbells, your prayer, your purpose, and begin, and make no mistake, it is painful. Let us reason together. You want to lead, you want to rise. You want to separate yourself from the noise, from the slow rhythm of average men. But how do you do it? You do it by moving before the world even begins. You do it by creating momentum while others are still wandering through sleep. There is something powerful about waking up at 4 a.m., not just to be early, but to gain ground, to run ahead of time, to begin your day with intention while others begin theirs with confusion. When a man rises at 4 a.m., he does not start the day, he seizes it. He takes hold of the hours before they slip into waste, and by the time the world opens its eyes, he has already planted seeds in silence that will bear fruit in the daylight. Understand this truth: momentum is the greatest force on earth. Once it begins, it is hard to stop. The man who rises with purpose while the city still sleeps, he carries a rhythm that cannot be matched by the one who rushes into his day unprepared. When you move first, when you plan before the noise, when you read before the traffic, when you pray before the chaos, when you sweat before the complaints, your soul develops momentum that becomes your weapon. And momentum does not come from waiting, it comes from waking, it comes from doing, it comes from consistency when no one is watching, Ask yourself what is the cost of starting your day with no direction. What happens when you rise at 9, at 10, and the world is already shouting, demanding, distracting? You become reactive. You answer to the world instead of leading it. But the man who begins his day at 4 a.m. is not caught off guard. He is grounded. He has already spoken to himself, to his spirit, to his creator. He has already mapped his battles. He has already visualized his victory. And that is why he walks through the day with calm and clarity, while others move in panic. That is why he does not fear obstacles. He has already seen them in his morning mind. He is not shaken by pressure. He has already trained his heart in silence. By the time his enemy wakes, he is already standing at the gate. This is not about waking up early for vanity. This is about momentum. When you wake early and create discipline, the rest of your day begins to obey. Your body obeys, your mind obeys, your time obeys. And when you begin your day with structure, you no longer chase success, it begins to chase you. This is the secret that the masses miss. They wait for life to push them forward, but the rare man creates force by movement. He builds momentum before anyone else is even thinking about progress. At 4 a.m. your movement is sacred. Your steps are not loud, but they are strategic. While others wait for the sun to direct them, you are already lit by purpose. While others complain about time, you are gaining hours the lazy man will never get back. And make no mistake, you can either move with the clock or be ruled by it. The man who builds momentum in the dark does not need to rush in the light. He has already set the pace. He has already done the work. That is why he does not stress. He has already conquered the hour that determines the day. There is a confidence that only comes from doing the hard things early. When your shirt is soaked with sweat before 6 a.m., you no longer need external validation. You already know who you are. When your mind has been sharpened by reading, by reflection, by writing, you do not need to argue with fools during the day. You've already spoken with wisdom in the morning. That kind of start is not just powerful, it is prophetic. You are not waiting for the world to give you momentum. You are building it by force. So let them laugh when you rise before the sun. Let them question your silence. Let them mock your solitude, because by the time they realize what you were doing, you will be too far ahead for them to catch. You will not need to explain. You will not need to shout. Your results will speak louder than their doubts. And when the history of your life is written, it will be said, "This was a man who moved before the world did, and that is why he led it." There is a silence that speaks louder than noise. There is an hour when the soul hears clearly, when the heart feels deeply, and when the mind touches dimensions beyond logic. That hour is 4 a.m. It is not merely a time to rise, it is a portal, a sacred gate between who you have been and who you are becoming. While the world is buried in sleep, distracted by dreams, the man who wakes in this divine hour finds himself in alignment not just with the schedule, but with his purpose. Because this hour was not created for the many, it was carved out for the few. The few who dare to rise before the noise, the few who dare to listen before they speak, the few who understand that purpose is not found in chaos, but in quiet. There is something spiritual about 4 a.m. Something ancient, something eternal. It is the time the prophets rose. It is the hour when warriors prayed. It is the moment when kings wrote decrees that changed the course of nations. Because in that hour, distractions have not yet awakened. Social media is asleep. The world has not yet begun its manipulation. You are alone, and yet not alone. You are surrounded by clarity. You are embraced by direction. You can hear the whisper of destiny without interruption. This is not productivity, this is presence, and presence is power. The man who rises at 4 a.m. and aligns with his purpose is not just building a routine, he is becoming a weapon. He is no longer chasing meaning in the noise. He has found meaning in the quiet, and in that quiet he begins to ask the questions the world avoids. Who am I becoming? Why was I born? What is required of me? These are not questions for the weak. These are questions for the chosen, for the one who no longer wants to merely exist but to impact, and 4 a.m. is the hour where that impact begins, not with action, but with awareness. When you align yourself in that sacred hour, your goals are not based on competition, they are rooted in calling. You are not moved by trends, you are guided by truth. You are not enslaved by time, you are one with it. The man who finds his purpose in the early hour is not lost in the day. He is grounded, he is focused. He moves with spiritual force. He does not panic because he has already prepared. He does not react because he has already reflected. He is not shaken because he has already stood in stillness. At 4 a.m. you pray differently. You think differently, you breathe differently. You are not concerned with the noise of others because you are in tune with the voice within, the one that tells you to keep going when everything says quit. The one that reminds you that your mission is not measured in applause, but in obedience. That voice is not loud, it is not dramatic, but it is powerful, and it only speaks clearly when the world is silent. That is why the man of purpose does not miss this hour, because he understands the price of missing alignment. He knows that power without purpose is destruction. He knows that motion without meaning is death in disguise. And so, before he enters the war of the day, he enters the temple of 4 a.m. Here he writes, here he prays, here he breathes, here he remembers who he is, and that remembrance becomes his anchor when the day begins to shake. Others move fast, but he moves right. Others chase success, but he attracts it through discipline and alignment, because when your soul is in order, your steps are unstoppable. When your thoughts are clear, your direction is divine. And when your purpose is louder than your pain, nothing can delay your destiny. And I tell you this with fire in my voice and conviction in my chest, no man who has met himself at 4 a.m. ever remained ordinary. Because in that hour he saw his potential, he faced his fear, he heard his assignment, and once a man is touched by clarity, the fog of this world cannot confuse him again. So rise not just to work. Rise to listen, rise to align, rise to become, because the day belongs to those who plan, but destiny belongs to those who pray. The man who finds alignment at 4 a.m. will never be defeated by the noise of 9 a.m.